The key still fits. I stand on the front porch of my childhood home, brass metal warm between my fingers, and marvel at how some things remain constant while everything else crumbles. 3 months since Mom's funeral. 3 months since I've been back to this town that raised me and then watched me leave without looking over my shoulder. The door opens with the same reluctant creak it's had for 20 years. Inside, dust motes dance in afternoon sunlight streaming through windows that haven't been cleaned since she was still here to clean them. The smell hits me first. Lavender sachets she tucked into every drawer, old books, and something indefinable that I can only call home. It's fainter now, competing with the mustiness of a house left too long alone, but it's there. Grief doesn't shout. It lingers, like dust, like silence. I drop my keys on the small table by the door, the same table where she used to leave notes for me when I was 17 and coming home past curfew. Dinner in the fridge. Love you. Always the same handwriting, always the same unconditional grace. The table is empty now except for a thin layer of dust and a stack of sympathy cards I haven't had the courage to read. The living room looks smaller than I remember. The burgundy sofa where I used to sprawl reading fantasy novels sits exactly where it always has, but it seems to have shrunk in my absence. Or maybe I've just grown larger, filled with years and experiences this house has never seen. On the mantelpiece, photographs watch me with familiar faces. Me at 8 with a gap-toothed grin, Mom in her wedding dress looking impossibly young, the three of us at my high school graduation, Mom, me, and... I turn away before I can study that last photo too closely. Some things I'm not ready for yet. The kitchen still smells faintly of cinnamon and vanilla, as if her last batch of snickerdoodles has left an eternal imprint on the air. Her handwritten recipes are exactly where they've always been, tucked into a wooden box beside the stove, each card stained and worn from use. I pull one out at random. David's favorite chocolate chip cookies, her careful cursive notes in the margins. Extra vanilla. He likes them sweet. Don't overbake. My throat tightens. Even her recipes were love letters. Upstairs, my old bedroom waits like a museum exhibit. The twin bed with its faded blue comforter, the desk where I wrote countless school papers and later other things I could never say aloud. The closet still holds clothes I outgrew a decade ago, but hanging in the back, wrapped in plastic, is my high school Letterman jacket. I pull it out and press my face to the worn leather. It still smells like autumn Friday nights and teenage dreams and the cologne I wore to seem older than I was. I sit on the bed and let myself remember what it felt like to be 17 in this room, staring at the ceiling and thinking about futures that seemed both infinite and terrifying. About college applications and escape plans and the boy next door who could make me laugh until my stomach hurt and who never, ever looked at me the way I looked at him. The box of my mother's effects that the lawyer gave me sits unopened on my old desk. I know I should go through it, but instead I find myself wandering from room to room, touching surfaces, opening drawers, searching for something I can't name. In her bedroom, I discover a journal tucked beneath her mattress. The last entry dated 2 weeks before she died. David called today, still won't visit, but at least he calls. I worry he's lonely in that big city. I worry he's still running from whatever made him leave so fast all those years ago. Some hearts take longer to heal, some secrets weigh more than others. I close the journal quickly as if I'm intruding, but the words echo, still running. She always saw too much, understood too much. Even from her hospital bed, she was trying to take care of me. The sound of gravel crunching in the driveway makes me freeze. Through the window, I see a familiar pickup truck, older now, more dense in scratches, but unmistakably his. My heart does something complicated in my chest, a rhythm I haven't felt in years. Marcus steps out of the truck, and time does that strange thing where it collapses and expands simultaneously. He's 32 now, same as me, but he looks more settled somehow. Broader shoulders, laugh lines around his eyes, calloused hands that speak of honest work. His hair is shorter than it used to be, and there's a seriousness to his expression that wasn't there when we were 22 and everything was possible. He's carrying work gloves and wearing that same easy smile I remember, But underneath it, I can see the careful distance we've built between us. 10 years of silence has weight. It changes the air between people. I meet him at the front door because standing there staring through the window feels too much like the lovesick teenager I used to be. "Hey, stranger," he says, and his voice is exactly the same, a little rough around the edges, like he's been shouting over construction noise all day, warm in a way that used to undo me completely. "Hey, yourself." I step aside to let him in. "You didn't have to come." Of course I did. He looks around the living room, and I wonder if he's remembering the same things I am. Movie nights sprawled on that couch, board games that lasted until midnight, the way we used to talk for hours about everything and nothing. "Your mom she was special, and you shouldn't have to do this alone. You shouldn't have to do this alone." The kindness in those words makes my chest tight. This is Marcus, who always showed up when things got hard. Marcus, who held me when my dad left and never asked questions. Marcus, who I loved so quietly, so completely, that it became the background music of my entire adolescence. The same Marcus I walked away from without explanation because I couldn't bear the weight of my own heart anymore. "I appreciate it," I say, meaning it more than I can express. "Really, I don't know where to start." "Start anywhere," he says simply. "We'll figure it out as we go." We. Such a small word. It shouldn't affect me the way it does. We begin in the living room, packing books and trinkets into boxes with methodical care. Marcus handles each item like it matters, even things that are clearly destined for donation. He asks about some of them, the ceramic owl on the bookshelf that Mom claimed brought good luck, the set of china we only used at Christmas, and I tell him what I remember. It feels strange narrating my mother's life in past tense. "She talked about you, you know," he says after an hour of careful small talk. He's wrapping a picture frame in newspaper, not looking at me. "Even after you stopped coming home for visits, she worried about you." There's no accusation in his voice, but I feel it anyway. "I called," I say weakly. "I know, but it wasn't the same." He's right, of course. Phone calls were easier, safer. I could control the conversation, keep it surface level, hang up before the silence got too heavy with everything we weren't saying. "It was complicated," I offer, which is both completely true and wholly inadequate. Marcus nods like he understands, but how could he? He doesn't know that leaving felt like tearing myself in half, that I spent the first year in Chicago waking up reaching for my phone to call him about something stupid and funny, only to remember that I'd burned that bridge the day I decided my feelings were more important than our friendship. We work side by side as the afternoon stretches into early evening. Slowly, carefully, the ice begins to crack. Marcus tells me about his construction business, the house he bought on the other side of town, his sister's new baby. I tell him about my job at the marketing firm, the apartment with too much natural light, the novel I've been trying to write for 3 years. We talk like nothing had changed, but everything had. The ghosts in this house aren't just my mother's. They're ours too. The boys we used to be, the friendship we used to have, the easy intimacy that once made everything else bearable. I catch him looking at me sometimes when he thinks I'm not paying attention, and there's something in his expression I can't quite read. Curiosity, maybe. Or sadness, the weight of all those years of silence. By 6 o'clock, we've made real progress on the living room. Marcus straightens up, stretching his back. "You hungry? There's a casserole in your fridge from Mrs. Peterson next door. Probably enough for both of us." I'd forgotten about small-town kindness. In Chicago, my neighbors and I exchange polite nods in the hallway. Here, people still show up with food when someone dies. We eat on the front porch as the sun sets, the same porch where we used to sit after school complaining about teachers and planning adventures we never took. The casserole is good, some kind of chicken and rice combination that tastes like comfort. We don't talk much, just listen to the evening sounds. Birds settling into trees, a dog barking somewhere down the street, the distant hum of highway traffic. "It's strange being back," I say eventually. I keep expecting the past to come walking down the stairs. Marcus looks at me over his beer bottle. "What would you do if it did?" The question catches me off guard. I don't know. Apologize, maybe, for leaving the way I did. You were 22, he says. We all made mistakes when we were 22. Mistakes? Is that what we're calling it? The word doesn't feel big enough for the choice I made, the friendship I sacrificed, the love I was too afraid to name. Some mistakes have longer consequences than others, I say. Marcus is quiet for a long time, peeling the label off his beer bottle with careful precision. Finally, you could have called, after you got settled, after whatever was eating at you got sorted out. It wasn't that simple, wasn't it? We were best friends, David. He stops, shakes his head. Never mind. Ancient history. But it's not ancient history. It's sitting here with us on this porch, as real and present as the evening air. 10 years collapsed into nothing, and we're 22 again, on the edge of something neither of us knows how to navigate. We finish dinner in careful silence. Marcus helps me clean up, moving around the kitchen with the ease of someone who spent half his teenage years in this house. He knows where the dish towels are, which cabinet holds the glasses. The familiarity of it makes my chest ache. I should go, he says, drying his hands on a towel that still smells like my mother's lavender detergent. Early day tomorrow. But I'll come back this weekend if you want. Help you tackle the upstairs. You don't have to. David. He turns to face me, and something in his expression stops my automatic protest. Let me help, please. I nod because I don't trust my voice, because the idea of spending another day with him, even with all this awkwardness between us, feels like a gift I don't deserve. After he leaves, I wander the empty house, feeling more alone than I have since I arrived. The boxes we packed today sit in neat rows, labeled in my careful handwriting: books, donation, kitchen, Gaab, photos, sort later. Evidence of a life being dismantled, one memory at a time. I pour myself a glass of the wine I brought from Chicago, something organic and expensive that would have made Mom laugh, and sit in a reading chair. It still holds the impression of her body, still smells faintly of her perfume. I close my eyes and try to feel her presence, but there's only silence and the settling sounds of an old house. The funeral was closed casket. Something about the cancer, the way it took her at the end. I never got to say goodbye properly, never got to tell her all the things I should have said when she was alive, like how much I missed home, even when I was determined to never look back, like how grateful I was for her quiet, steady love that never asked for more than I could give, like how sorry I was for staying away so long because I was too much of a coward to face my own heart. Saturday arrives gray and drizzly, the kind of weather that makes everything feel muted and melancholy. Marcus shows up at 9 with coffee and donuts from the bakery downtown, the same bakery where we used to spend our allowance money on chocolate-frosted donuts and wild dreams about escaping to the city. Thought we'd start with the attic, he says, handing me a coffee that's exactly the way I like it, black with 1 sugar. The fact that he remembers this small detail shouldn't matter as much as it does. The attic is a disaster. 20 years of accumulated memories crammed into a space that wasn't designed for storage. Christmas decorations, old furniture, boxes labeled in my mother's careful handwriting, David's school papers, photo albums 1985 to 1990, winter clothes, good condition. We work methodically, sorting through decades of a life fully lived. I find my elementary school art projects carefully preserved in a manila envelope. Report cards that chart my academic progress from eager kindergartner to sullen teenager. A box full of participation ribbons from various childhood activities my mother signed me up for in her determined quest to help me find my passion. Oh my God, Marcus laughs, pulling out a framed photo. Remember this? It's from Halloween when we were 14. We're dressed as Han Solo and Luke Skywalker, complete with plastic lightsabers and cocky grins. Marcus has his arm thrown around my shoulders in that casual way teenage boys touch each other, all bravado and unconscious intimacy. In the photo, I'm looking at the camera, but there's something in my expression, a softness, a happiness that comes from being exactly where I want to be. Looking at it now, I can see what I couldn't see then. I was already in love with him, already lost. We were such nerds, I say, taking the photo from him. Speak for yourself. I was the coolest Han Solo in the Tri-County area. His smile is the same one from the picture, easy and warm and completely unself-conscious. For a moment, it's like no time has passed at all. We're just two boys playing dress-up and believing in happy endings. We keep sorting. Marcus finds a box of my high school yearbooks and spends 20 minutes reading old signatures and laughing at the fashions. I discover a collection of my mother's journals dating back to my childhood and immediately put them aside to read later when I'm alone. Some intimacies are too precious to share, even with him. It's Marcus who finds the shoebox. It's tucked behind a stack of old magazines on remarkable brown cardboard that blends in with everything else. He pulls it out, curious, and I'm halfway across the attic examining a box of Christmas ornaments when I hear him say, "David, you might want to see this." There's something in his voice, careful, uncertain, that makes me look up. He's sitting cross-legged on the dusty floor, the shoebox open in his lap. In his hands is a piece of paper folded into careful thirds, the edges soft with age. My stomach drops. "These are yours?" he asks, and his voice is very quiet. I walk over slowly, my heart hammering against my ribs. The box is full of them, maybe 30 or 40 letters, each one folded the same way, each one written in my careful teenage handwriting. Letters I wrote but never sent. Letters that were supposed to stay hidden forever. Marcus is holding one open, his eyes moving across the page. I can't see which one it is, but it doesn't matter. They're all the same, really. Different words, different dates, but the same desperate longing underneath. I never meant for anyone to read them, I say, which is inadequate and true and completely beside the point now. Marcus looks up at me, his expression unreadable. "They're about me, aren't they?" The question hangs in the air between us, heavier than dust, more permanent than memory. I could lie. I could make up some story about teenage angst and fictional crushes and hearts that didn't know their own minds. But looking at him now, seeing the careful way he's holding that letter like it's made of glass, I know there's no point. I don't answer because I don't need to. The truth is written in my handwriting, dated and signed and folded with the precision of someone who thought words on paper were safer than words spoken aloud. Instead, I turn and walk out of the room, down the stairs, through the living room, out the front door into the gray morning air. Behind me, I can hear Marcus calling my name, but I keep walking until I reach the edge of the yard where the property meets the old oak tree we used to climb as kids. My hands are shaking. Not from cold, the October air is mild, but from the raw exposure of being seen in a way I never wanted to be seen. Those letters were private. They were mine. They were the only way I could love him safely, in words that lived and died on paper, in feelings that never had to face the messy complication of reality. I lean against the oak tree and close my eyes. I can remember writing them, usually late at night when the house was quiet and my heart was too full to sleep. I wrote about the way he laughed, the way he looked when he was concentrating on something difficult, the way he said my name like it mattered. I wrote about wanting to touch him, to kiss him, to tell him everything I was too afraid to say. I wrote about the ache of loving someone who could never love you back. I thought I'd thrown them away before I left for college. I thought I'd destroyed all the evidence of my pathetic one-sided devotion, but apparently I hid them instead. Tucked them away in my mother's attic like secrets that were too precious to burn. February 14th, 1999. Marcus. It's Valentine's Day and I'm 17 and I think I might be losing my mind. Sarah McKinley asked you to the winter formal today and you said yes, and I had to stand there smiling like I was happy for you when really I wanted to disappear into the floor. I know I should be happy. You deserve someone who can love you the right way, someone who isn't scared and confused and so twisted up inside they can barely breathe around you. But God, Marcus, if you knew how I feel when you look at me, if you knew that every time you laugh at one of my stupid jokes, my heart does this thing where it forgets how to beat properly. If you knew that I've been in love with you since we were 15 and too young to understand what love even meant. I'll never tell you. I can't. We're best friends, and that's more important than anything else, more important than these feelings that make me feel like I'm drowning sometimes. I'd rather have you as a friend than lose you completely. But sometimes I wonder what would happen if I was brave enough to tell you the truth. Sometimes I think maybe, but no, I can't risk it. I can't risk us. Love always. David. June 3rd, 2000. Marcus. Graduation was today. We threw our caps in the air and hugged our parents and pretended we weren't terrified about what comes next. You got that scholarship to state. I'm going to Northwestern. We'll be hours apart for the first time since we were 5 years old. I should be excited. I should be ready for the adventure. But all I can think about is how I won't see you every day anymore. How I won't be able to just walk to your house when I need to talk to someone who understands me. How everything is about to change and there's nothing I can do to stop it. You hugged me extra long after the ceremony. You said, "Promise me nothing will change between us." And I promised because what else could I do? But I'm scared, Marcus. I'm scared that distance will make it easier for you to forget about me. I'm scared that you'll meet new people and have new experiences and realize that your weird introverted best friend from high school wasn't as important as you thought. I'm also scared that I'll never get over you, that I'll spend the next 4 years comparing everyone I meet to you and finding them wanting, that I'll graduate with a degree and a career and a whole new life, but my heart will still belong to a boy who never knew he had it. Maybe distance will be good for me. Maybe it will finally teach me how to stop loving you. But I don't want to stop loving you, even if it hurts, even if it's hopeless. This love is the most real thing I've ever felt. Forever yours, even if you'll never be mine. David. August 15th, 2003. Marcus. Without explanation. I saw the pictures on Facebook. You and Jennifer at your cousin's wedding, the way you're looking at her in that photo, like she's the most important person in the world, like you're seeing your future in her eyes. I should be happy for you. I am happy for you. You deserve someone who can love you openly, proudly, without shame or fear, someone who doesn't have to write letters they'll never send because they're too much of a coward to speak their truth. But seeing those pictures felt like dying a little bit, like the last hope I didn't even know I was carrying finally withered and blew away. I know you'll never understand why I left the way I did. How can I explain that staying would have destroyed me? That watching you fall in love with someone else while pretending to be just your friend would have broken something in me that might never heal? I know you'll never understand why I chose my own survival over our friendship, but maybe someday you'll forgive me for being too weak to be the friend you deserved. I love you. I've always loved you. I'll probably always love you. but I can't keep living in the shadow of that love anymore. Goodbye, David. These are the words he's reading now. These are the secrets I thought I'd buried forever. 20 years of longing condensed into careful handwriting and folded into shapes that could be hidden, forgotten, denied. I wrote those letters because I couldn't say any of it out loud. Not then. Maybe not even now. There are words that only live on paper, but even paper doesn't keep them safe forever. I had loved him quietly, constantly, like background music, the kind you only notice when it stops. The sound of footsteps on gravel makes me open my eyes. Marcus is walking toward me slowly, like he's approaching a wild animal that might bolt. He's still holding some of the letters, and his expression is, I don't know what his expression is. Careful, thoughtful, something that might be sadness. David, he says when he's close enough that we don't have to raise our voices, we need to talk. No, I say automatically. We really don't. Yes, we do. He stops a few feet away, respecting my space, but close enough that I can see the confusion in his eyes. How long? How long what? How long were you? He gestures with the letters, searching for words. How long did you feel this way? This way. Like my love is something clinical, something that needs delicate handling. Maybe it is. Does it matter? I ask. It matters to me. Why? So you can feel guilty about not noticing, so you can rewrite history and feel bad about all the times you talked to me about girls you liked. Don't, Marcus, just don't. He's quiet for a long moment, studying my face like he's seeing me for the first time. Maybe he is. The night before you left for Chicago, he says finally, after your going away party, we were sitting on your porch, and I said something about how I was going to miss you, and you got this look on your face like you were going to say something important, but then you just hugged me and went inside. I remember. Of course I remember. I almost told him everything that night, almost ruined our last good moment together with the weight of my impossible feelings. What were you going to say? He asks. It doesn't matter now. It does to me, he repeats, and there's something in his voice I can't identify. All these years, David, all these years I thought I'd done something wrong. I thought I'd hurt you somehow and you just left, without explanation, without even saying goodbye properly. The pain in his voice makes my chest tight. I never thought about it from his perspective, what my sudden departure must have felt like to someone who'd never known a world without me in it. You didn't do anything wrong, I say quietly. That was the problem. You were perfect. You were this amazing friend who would have done anything for me, and I was in love with you, desperately, pathetically in love with you, and I couldn't stand it anymore. The words hang between us, stark and honest, and 20 years too late. Marcus doesn't say anything for a long time. A car drives by on the street behind us. A dog barks. Life continues around us while my world restructures itself around this moment of terrible, necessary truth. So you left, he says finally. So I left. Without telling me. Without telling you. He nods slowly like he's processing something complex. And all this time I thought it was something I'd said, something I'd done. I replayed every conversation we'd had that summer trying to figure out where I'd gone wrong. You didn't go wrong anywhere, Marcus. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You were a perfect friend to someone who couldn't be a perfect friend back. Because you were in love with me. Because I was in love with you. The afternoon light is starting to fade, casting long shadows across the yard. We stand there in the gathering dusk, two men in their 30s finally having a conversation we should have had when we were 22 and stupid and brave enough to believe that truth was always better than silence. I should go, I say, because standing here talking about my ancient, hopeless feelings is more exposure than I can handle. I should pack up those letters and finish dealing with Mom's things and get back to my real life. Is that what you want? It's what I should want. That's not what I asked. I look at him, really look at him, and see something I've never let myself see before. Not pity, not discomfort, not the awkward charity of someone who's been put in an impossible position, just attention. Like he's actually listening, actually considering what all of this means. I don't know what I want, I admit. I haven't known for 20 years. Marcus is quiet for a moment. Then, I'm going to finish up in the attic, box up those letters for you. You don't have to help if you don't want to, but I'm not going to pretend I didn't read them. And I'm not going to pretend they don't change things. They don't change anything, I say quickly. They're old, Marcus, ancient history. I'm different now, I've moved on. He gives me a look that says he doesn't believe me. Honestly, I'm not sure I believe me either. I'll see you tomorrow, he says, turning back toward the house. You don't have to come back tomorrow. He pauses, looks over his shoulder. Yes, I do. And then he's gone, leaving me alone with the oak tree and the gathering darkness and the terrible, wonderful vulnerability of being completely seen. I don't go back inside until much later when the porch light Marcus turned on starts attracting moths and the evening air turns cool enough to make me shiver. The house feels different now, not just empty but changed somehow. Like secrets have been let loose in the rooms and nothing will ever settle quite the same way again. The shoebox is gone from the attic. Marcus must have taken it downstairs, along with all the evidence of my younger self's desperate heart. I don't know whether to be grateful or terrified. I try to read, try to watch television, try to do anything that will quiet the noise in my head. But everything feels too loud, too bright, too much. Finally, I give up and just sit in Mom's reading chair, nursing a glass of wine and staring at the wall where her favorite painting used to hang. It's past midnight when I hear the front door open. My heart stops. I never gave Marcus a key, but he knows where Mom kept the spare, same place it's been hidden since we were kids. The sound of his footsteps in the hallway is familiar and strange, like muscle memory from a dream. I find him in the living room, sitting on the couch in the dark. The shoebox is beside him, along with what looks like every letter I ever wrote. He's not reading them now, just sitting there in the dim light from the hallway, staring at nothing. I couldn't sleep, he says without looking at me. I hover in the doorway, uncertain. So you broke into my house? I used the key under the flower pot. Same place your mom always kept it. That's still breaking and entering. Sue me. There's something different about him, something looser, more raw than the careful politeness we've been maintaining since he showed up yesterday. Like finding those letters shook something loose in him, too. I sit in Mom's chair, far enough away that we're not sharing space, but close enough that I can see his face in the dim light. He looks tired, older than his 32 years, like he's been carrying something heavy for a long time. I read them all, he says eventually. My stomach clenches. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. He turns to look at me then, and his eyes are serious. 20 years, David. 20 years you've been carrying this around. It got easier, I lie. Did it? I don't answer because we both know it didn't. 20 years of carefully constructed distance, 20 years of relationships that never quite worked because I was always comparing them to a memory of him. 20 years of wondering what if while telling myself I was better off not knowing. Marcus reaches for one of the letters, unfolds it with careful precision. This one's from 2010, he says. 7 years after you'd already left. You were still writing to me. I close my eyes. I remember that letter. I'd written it after seeing his engagement announcement on Facebook, him and Jennifer smiling at the camera, her ring catching the light like a small star. Marcus, I saw your engagement announcement today, he reads, his voice quiet in the darkened room. You look happy, really genuinely happy in a way I haven't seen since we were kids. I should feel sad, I guess, but mostly I just feel grateful. Grateful that you found someone who can love you the way you deserve to be loved. Someone who can give you all the things I never could. Stop, I whisper. But he keeps reading. I hope she knows how lucky she is. I hope she knows that she's getting someone who will remember her birthday every year, who will listen to her bad day stories with complete attention, who will show up with soup when she's sick and terrible movies when she's sad. I hope she knows she's getting someone who loves with his whole heart. No reservations, no fears, no holding back. My eyes are burning now. I remember writing those words, remember the ache of them, the terrible generosity required to wish someone you love happiness with someone else. You want to know something funny? Marcus says, folding the letter back up with the same careful precision. Jennifer and I broke up 6 months later. I look at him sharply. What? The engagement. It lasted 6 months. She said, he laughs, but there's no humor in it. She said I was always somewhere else, always thinking about someone else, someone from my past I couldn't let go of. The room is very quiet. Outside, I can hear the distant sound of highway traffic, but inside there's only the sound of our breathing and the weight of things finally being said. She wasn't wrong, Marcus continues. I spent 2 years trying to figure out what was wrong with me, why I couldn't commit properly, why every relationship felt like I was pretending to be someone else. And then about 5 years ago, I was going through some old stuff in my parents' basement, and I found this. He reaches into his jacket pocket and pulls out a photograph. Even in the dim light, I recognize it. The two of us at senior prom. Not together, we both had dates, but we're standing next to each other in the group photo, and something about the way we're positioned, the way we're both slightly angled toward each other even while posing with other people, tells a story I'd never noticed before. I looked at this picture, Marcus says, and I realized something I'd been too stupid to see when we were 18. The way you're looking at me in this photo, it's not the way friends look at each other. My heart is hammering so hard I'm sure he can hear it. Marcus. And then I remembered all these little moments. The way you'd get quiet sometimes when I talked about girls I was dating. The way you'd change the subject. The way you hugged me goodbye the night before you left, like you were memorizing it. He sets the photograph on the coffee table between us, and in the dim light it looks like evidence of something I thought I'd hidden so carefully. I spent months going through every interaction we'd ever had, looking for signs I'd missed. And there were so many, David, so many moments when you were trying to tell me something and I was too oblivious to understand. The silence stretches between us, heavy with 20 years of misunderstanding. I want to say something, but every word feels inadequate. How do you explain 2 decades of loving someone in secret? How do you justify the cowardice that cost you the most important friendship of your life? Why didn't you ever tell me? He asks finally, and his voice is so quiet I almost don't hear it. The question I've been dreading, the question I've been asking myself for 20 years. Because you were everything to me back then, I say, the words coming out rougher than I intended. Everything. And I didn't think I could be that kind of everything to you. Marcus leans forward, elbows on his knees, studying my face in the candlelight. What kind of everything? The kind worth changing your whole life for, the kind worth taking risks for, the kind worth… I trail off, unable to finish the thought. The kind worth loving back? The words hit me like a physical blow. I was 17, Marcus, 18, scared out of my mind and so in love with you I could barely function. You were dating Sarah McKinley and talking about college and your future, and I was writing pathetic letters I could never send because I was too much of a coward to risk losing you completely. So instead you just left. I just left. He's quiet for a long time, processing this. Outside, the wind is picking up, rattling the windows in a way that reminds me of childhood storms. You want to know something? He says eventually. I knew. My heart stops. What? Not consciously, not in a way I could have put into words back then, but somewhere deep down I knew. He runs a hand through his hair, a gesture I remember from high school when he was working through something difficult. You'd look at me like I was holding your whole world, and I didn't know how to hold that. The admission hangs between us, years of unspoken truth finally given voice. I feel something shift in my chest, some tight knot of shame and regret beginning to loosen. I was 17 too, Marcus continues, just as scared, just as confused. I knew something was different about the way we were together, but I didn't have the vocabulary for it. I didn't have the courage to examine it too closely. And now? He meets my eyes. Now I'm 32 and tired of pretending I don't think about you. Tired of pretending that losing you didn't shape everything that came after. The wind outside is getting stronger now, and I can hear the first drops of rain against the windows. A storm rolling in, the kind that used to send us running to the basement when we were kids. I should let you get some sleep, I say, because this conversation feels too big for the small hours of the night, too important to navigate in darkness. I'm not tired. Marcus, I spent 20 years wondering what I did wrong, he says, and there's something fierce in his voice now, something that won't be dismissed. 20 years thinking I'd failed you somehow. Don't you think I deserve to understand what actually happened? He's right, of course. He deserves the whole truth, not just the sanitized version I've been offering. I take a deep breath and tell him everything about the way I used to watch him in chemistry class, memorizing the way he looked when he was concentrating, about lying awake at night imagining what it would feel like to hold his hand, to kiss him, to be the person he came home to. About writing those letters because they were the only safe place for all the love I couldn't speak aloud. I tell him about college, about the parade of boyfriends who were all pale imitations of him, about therapy sessions where I tried to explain to someone who'd never met him why I couldn't seem to move on, about the night I graduated and got drunk and almost called him, almost ruined everything with one stupid, vulnerable phone call. I tell him about seeing his engagement announcement and feeling like someone had reached into my chest and squeezed my heart until it stopped beating. About the relief I felt when I heard it ended, followed immediately by guilt for being relieved about his pain. By the time I finish talking, the rain is coming down harder, drumming against the roof with increasing intensity. The power flickers once, twice, then goes out completely, leaving us in darkness broken only by the faint glow of streetlights through the windows. Marcus doesn't say anything for a long time. I can hear him breathing in the darkness, can feel the weight of his attention even though I can't see his face. "Stay here," he says finally, and I hear him moving around in the darkness. A few minutes later, he's back with candles, the emergency candles Mom always kept in the kitchen drawer. He lights them one by one, filling the room with warm, flickering light. We sit on the floor now, our backs against the couch, surrounded by the gentle dance of candlelight. The storm continues outside, but here in this circle of light, everything feels contained, manageable, safe. "Do you remember the night we got caught in that thunderstorm?" Marcus asks. "We were maybe 14, walking home from the movies, and it just opened up on us." I remember. We ran for shelter under the gazebo in the town square, soaked to the skin and laughing like idiots. We sat there for hours, waiting for the rain to stop, talking about everything and nothing. "You were shivering," he continues. "So I put my arm around you, and you got this look on your face. I remember thinking you looked surprised, like you hadn't expected me to touch you." "I hadn't," I admit. "I was always so careful not to expect anything from you. But you leaned into me. We sat there for 2 hours with my arm around you, and it felt—" He pauses, searching for the right word. "It felt right." "Please provide the original text you'd like me to rephrase." The question I've been dreading and hoping for in equal measure. The one that could change everything or destroy what little we've managed to rebuild. "Every time I look at you," I whisper. There's a pause, a soft exhale. And then, so gently I might have imagined it, his hand covers mine on the floor between us. It's not a kiss. It's not a declaration. It's just a hand on a hand, warm and real and impossibly precious, something that says, "I'm still here. I see you. This matters." We sit like that for a long time, watching the candles burn down and listening to the storm rage outside. Neither of us speaks. We don't need to. 20 years of silence has finally been broken, and now we're learning a new kind of quiet. Not the absence of truth, but the presence of it. Eventually, the rain begins to soften and the wind dies down to a whisper. Marcus doesn't move his hand, and I don't move mine. We stay connected in that small way, like we're afraid that breaking contact might break whatever fragile thing we've built between us. "I should go," he says finally, but he doesn't move. "You could stay," I offer, then quickly add, "On the couch. It's late and the roads will be flooded." He looks at me in the candlelight, considering. "Is that what you want?" "I want—" I start, then stop. What do I want? him to stay, him to go, for things to be simple the way they never were. I want to not be afraid of what I want anymore. Something in his expression shifts, softens. Then I'll stay. Part 2. I wake to sunlight streaming through the living room windows and the sound of Marcus moving around in the kitchen. For a moment, I'm disoriented. I'm on the floor, covered with my mother's favorite throw blanket, surrounded by the waxy remnants of burned-down candles. Then the events of last night come flooding back. The storm, the conversation, his hand warm against mine until we both fell asleep on the floor like teenagers at a sleepover. The smell of coffee draws me to the kitchen, where Marcus stands at the counter with his back to me, hair mussed from sleep, wearing the same clothes from yesterday. He looks domestic and rumpled and absolutely devastating in the morning light. "Hey," I say, my voice rough with sleep. He turns, and there's a moment of awkwardness. What do you say to someone after spending 20 years carrying a torch for them and finally admitting it? How do you have a normal conversation after that kind of vulnerability? "Hey yourself," he says, handing me a mug of coffee. "Sleep okay?" "Better than I have in weeks," I admit, and it's true. Despite sleeping on the floor, despite everything that happened, I feel more rested than I have since arriving in town. We drink our coffee in comfortable silence, standing on opposite sides of the kitchen island like we're maintaining some invisible boundary. The morning light makes everything feel different, less intense maybe, but no less significant. If anything, seeing him in the bright light of day makes last night feel more real, more permanent. "We should probably get back to work," Marcus says eventually. "Still have most of the upstairs to go through." I nod, grateful for the suggestion of normalcy. "Right. The house isn't going to pack itself." But as we head upstairs, I can feel something has changed between us. It's subtle. The way he lets me go first up the stairs, the way our shoulders brush when we pass in the hallway, the way he looks at me when he thinks I'm not paying attention. Like he's seeing me differently now, like I'm no longer just David, his old friend, but David who loved him for 20 years. We work in Mom's bedroom, going through her clothes and personal items with careful reverence. It should be sad work, but having Marcus there makes it bearable. He tells stories about my mother that I'd never heard, like how she used to slip him extra cookies when he'd come over after school, or how she always asked about him even after I stopped visiting. "She never gave up hope, you know," he says, folding one of her cardigans into a donation box. "That you'd come back, that we'd figure things out." "She always saw more than she should have," I reply, and I'm thinking about her journal, about her entry about secrets that weigh more than others. Maybe she just saw what was really there. I look up at him, but he's focused on the task at hand, carefully wrapping her jewelry in tissue paper. Still, there's something in his tone that makes my chest tight with possibility. We move to the guest room after that, which is mostly storage, boxes of Christmas decorations, old photo albums, furniture that hasn't been used in years. It's Marcus who finds the photo. It's tucked into one of Mom's albums. A candid shot someone took at a 4th of July barbecue when we were maybe 16. We're sitting on a picnic table, arms slung around each other's shoulders, faces flushed with sunlight and laughter. But it's more than that. There's something in our expressions, in the way we're looking at each other instead of at the camera, that tells a story I'd forgotten we were writing. "Jesus," Marcus says, staring down at the photo. "Look at us." I look. In the picture, teenage Marcus has his arm around teenage me, and I'm leaning into him like it's the most natural thing in the world. We look happy. We look in love, if I'm being honest. Both of us, not just me. "I look at this now and wonder how we didn't see it," Marcus says quietly. "Maybe we did," I reply. "Maybe that's why it hurts so much." He glances up at me, something unreadable in his expression. "What do you mean?" I take a deep breath, trying to find words for something I've never articulated before. I think part of me always knew you felt something too. Not the same thing maybe, or not as strongly, but something. And that made it worse somehow, because if you'd felt nothing at all, I could have convinced myself it was completely hopeless. But there were moments, like that night in the thunderstorm you mentioned, when I thought maybe what? Maybe if I'd been braver. Maybe if I'd been willing to risk everything on a maybe. Marcus sets the photo down carefully, like it's made of something more fragile than paper and ink. And now? Now I'm 32 and supposedly wiser, but I still don't know how to be brave about this. This? I gesture between us at the space that holds 20 years of history and one night of honesty and all the possibility that neither of us knows how to name. Whatever this is. Marcus is quiet for a long time, considering. Finally, he says, "What if we didn't try to figure out what this is? What if we just saw what happens?" It's such a simple suggestion, but it feels revolutionary. No pressure, no definitions, no predetermined outcomes. Just two people who've always cared about each other, learning how to do it without all the fear and secrecy that poisoned it before. I'd like that, I say. Yeah? Yeah. The afternoon passes more easily after that. We fall back into the rhythm we found yesterday, working side by side, sharing memories, slowly dismantling the physical remains of my childhood. But now there's something different in the air between us. Not the careful politeness of yesterday, but not the desperate intensity of last night either. Something lighter, more hopeful. Marcus tells me about his business, about the houses he's built, and the satisfaction of creating something permanent. I tell him about my job, about the novel I've been trying to write, about my apartment that gets great light but never quite feels like home. We talk around the edges of more personal things, his failed engagement, my string of relationships that never quite worked, but we don't dig too deep, not yet. By late afternoon, we've made significant progress. Most of Mom's personal items are sorted into boxes marked keep, donate, or trash. The guest room is cleared out. The house is beginning to look less like a home and more like a place someone used to live. We should call it a day, Marcus says, looking around the nearly empty room. I promised my sister I'd watch my nephew tonight while she goes to her book club. I nod, trying not to feel disappointed. Of course he has a life here, responsibilities, people who count on him. It's selfish of me to want him to myself after all these years of radio silence. Tomorrow? He asks. If you want. I mean, if you have time. I have time, he says, and there's something in his voice that makes me look up. He's watching me with that expression again, the one that makes me feel seen in ways I'm not sure I'm ready for. Marcus, I know, he says quietly. This is complicated. We don't have to figure it all out today. Do we have to figure it out at all? Maybe not. Maybe we just have to be willing to see what happens. After he leaves, I sit in Mom's reading chair with a glass of wine and try to process everything that's happened in the last 24 hours. 2 days ago, I was a man coming home to bury the past. Now I'm sitting in a house full of boxes and possibilities, wondering if the past might actually be trying to resurrect itself. My phone buzzes with a text from Marcus. Thanks for today, and for last night. Sleep well. I stare at the message for a long time before typing back, "Thank you for staying." The response comes quickly. "Thank you for letting me." I fall asleep in Mom's chair, my phone still warm in my hand, and dream about thunderstorms and candlelight and the feeling of being known completely by someone who chooses to stay anyway. Sunday arrives gray and humid, the kind of weather that makes everything feel slightly oppressive. Marcus shows up with bagels and that same easy smile, but I can see the question in his eyes. How are we going to handle this new thing between us in the bright light of day? The answer, it turns out, is carefully. We work on the basement, which is mostly old furniture and boxes of documents that need to be sorted through. It's dusty, methodical work that doesn't require much conversation, and we fall into a comfortable rhythm. But I'm hyper-aware of him in a way I wasn't yesterday. The way he moves, the sound of his breathing, the warmth of his presence in the small space. It's like someone has turned up the volume on everything between us. The accidental brush of fingers when we reach for the same box. The way he says my name when he wants my attention. The moment when I turn around and find him looking at me with an expression I can't quite read. "What?" I ask. "Nothing," he says, but he doesn't look away. "Just This is strange, isn't it? Being here together like this? Good strange or bad strange? I don't know yet. I understand. If everything feels heightened, uncertain, like we're walking on ground that might shift beneath our feet at any moment. It's not uncomfortable exactly, but it's not easy either. We break for lunch, sitting on the back porch with sandwiches and trying to pretend everything is normal. The conversation is lighter today. Safe topics like the weather and local gossip and Marcus's nephew's latest obsession with dinosaurs. But underneath the surface, I can feel the weight of everything we said and didn't say last night. Can I ask you something? Marcus says eventually. Sure. When you first moved to Chicago, those first few months, did you think about coming back? The question catches me off guard, maybe because I've never admitted the answer to anyone, including myself. Every day, I say quietly. For the first year at least. I'd wake up reaching for my phone to text you something stupid, or I'd see something that would make me laugh and want to call you. I missed you so much it felt like missing a limb. But you didn't come back. I couldn't. I was afraid that if I saw you again, I'd fall right back into the same patterns, that I'd never learn how to be my own person. And did you learn how to be your own person? I consider this. I learned how to live without you. I'm not sure that's the same thing. Marcus is quiet for a moment, peeling the label off his beer bottle with careful precision. I kept expecting you to call. Even years later, I'd hear my phone ring and think maybe this time it would be you. The admission makes my chest tight. I'm sorry, I know that was unfair. It was, he agrees. But I think I understand now. You were trying to protect yourself, protect both of us maybe. Did it work? Did what work? The protection? Did staying away make things better? Marcus looks at me for a long moment. Ask me again in a few weeks. The afternoon storm that was threatening all day finally arrives around 4 o'clock. It starts as a gentle patter against the windows, but within minutes it's a full downpour. We're in the attic when the power goes out again, leaving us in the dim gray light filtering through the small window. Should we call it a day? I ask. Probably, Marcus says, but neither of us moves toward the stairs. Instead, we sit on the dusty floor, listening to the rain drum against the roof. There's something about storms that makes everything feel more intimate, like the rest of the world has been temporarily canceled and only this small space exists. Tell me about Chicago, Marcus says eventually. What's your life like there? So I tell him about my apartment in Lincoln Park, about the coffee shop where I go to write, about my job at the marketing firm that pays the bills but doesn't fulfill my soul. I tell him about my friend Sarah, not the Sarah McKinley from high school, a different Sarah, who keeps trying to set me up with her coworkers, and about my therapist who gently suggests that maybe I'm not as over my past as I think I am. What about dating? Marcus asks, and there's something carefully neutral in his voice that tells me this isn't a casual question. What about it? I mean, have you dated? Yes. Had relationships? A few? Nothing that lasted. Because of me? The directness of the question surprises me. Not entirely, but maybe partly. It's hard to give your heart to someone when part of it still belongs to someone else. Marcus is quiet for a long time. The rain continues to fall, creating a cocoon of sound around us. I need to tell you something, he says finally. My stomach clenches. Okay. After I found those letters yesterday, after I went home, I couldn't sleep, so I did something I probably shouldn't have done. What? I called Jennifer, my ex-fiancée. My heart stops. Why? Because I needed to understand something about why our relationship fell apart, about what she meant when she said I was always thinking about someone from my past. I wait, afraid to breathe, afraid to hope or fear or feel anything at all. She said something I've never been able to forget, Marcus continues. She said, Marcus, you talk about David like he was the love of your life. And when I protested, when I said we were just friends, she said, friends don't look like that when they talk about someone they lost. The words hit me like a physical blow. What did you say? I said she was wrong, that you were just my best friend, and I was sad about losing our friendship, but David, he turns to look at me in the dim light. I think she was right. The storm outside seems to intensify, rain lashing against the window with increasing fury, but in this small space, everything has gone very still. What are you saying? I whisper. I'm saying maybe I've been lying to myself for 20 years. Maybe losing you wasn't just about losing a friendship. Maybe it was about losing. He struggles with the words. Maybe it was about losing the person I was supposed to be with. The air between us feels charged, electric, like the moment before lightning strikes. I can hear my own heartbeat, can feel the weight of 20 years of secrets and silence pressing down on us. Marcus, I start, but I don't know how to finish. I know it's complicated, he says quickly. I know we can't just pick up where we left off, can't pretend the last 20 years didn't happen. But David, what if we'd been brave enough to figure it out back then? What if we'd been honest about what we felt? We were kids, I say, but even as I say it, I know it's not the whole truth. We were, he agrees, but we're not kids anymore. The storm is reaching its peak now, thunder rolling across the sky in long, rumbling waves. The power flickers back on for a moment, then dies again, leaving us in deeper darkness than before. I should get some candles, I say, starting to stand. David. Marcus's hand catches my wrist, gentle but firm. Don't run away again, please. I sink back down to the floor, my heart hammering against my ribs. I'm not running. Aren't you? Maybe I am. Maybe running is what I do when things get too real, too close to the truth I've been carrying for so long. I'm scared, I admit. Of what? Of this being real. Of wanting something I can't have. Of losing you again, but worse this time because now I know what I'm losing. Marcus's thumb moves in small circles against my wrist, the same gesture I remember from when we were teenagers and he was trying to comfort me. What if you're not losing me? He says quietly. What if you're finding me? The question hangs between us in the darkness, full of possibility and terror in equal measure. Outside, the storm continues its assault on the house, but here in this small space, something else is happening. Something that feels like coming home and starting over all at the same time. I don't know how to do this, I whisper. Neither do I, but maybe we could figure it out together. His hand moves from my wrist to my palm, fingers interlacing with mine. It's such a simple gesture, but it feels momentous, like we're finally admitting to something we've been dancing around for decades. Okay, I say, so quietly the word is almost lost in the sound of rain. Okay. Okay. Let's figure it out together. Marcus's fingers tighten around mine, and in the darkness I can hear him release a breath he might have been holding for 20 years. We sit like that until the storm passes, holding hands in the dusty attic of my childhood home while the rain washes the world clean outside. When the power finally comes back on, neither of us moves to break the contact. We've waited too long for this moment to end it before we have to. Eventually, though, the practical world intrudes. Marcus's phone buzzes with a text from his sister, wondering if he's okay in the storm. The refrigerator downstairs hums back to life. Reality reasserts itself, but gently this time, without the panic of yesterday. I should probably head home, Marcus says, but he doesn't let go of my hand. Probably, I agree, but I don't let go either. Tomorrow? Tomorrow. We stand together, finally breaking contact but staying close. In the bright overhead light, we look at each other like we're seeing something new, something we've never allowed ourselves to see before. David? Marcus says as we head toward the stairs. Yeah? Thank you for trusting me with this, with all of it. Thank you for staying. I'm not going anywhere, he says, and something in his voice makes me believe him. The next few days pass in a strange, suspended sort of way. We continue working on the house, but the work has taken on a different quality, less about dismantling my past and more about figuring out how to build something new from its pieces. We're more careful with each other now, aware of the fragile thing growing between us. But it's a good kind of careful, like we're tending something precious that might bloom if we're patient enough. Marcus tells me more about his life in the years we were apart, about the business he built from nothing, about the house he bought and renovated mostly by himself, about the loneliness that he learned to carry so well that most people never knew it was there. I tell him about Chicago, about the writing I've never shown anyone, about the dreams I've been too afraid to pursue because pursuing dreams means risking failure. We find more photographs as we clean, evidence of the friendship we had, the boys we were, the connection that everyone could see but us. Each picture is a small revelation, a piece of a puzzle we're slowly learning how to solve. On Wednesday, we tackle my old room, which I've been avoiding. It feels too much like archaeology, digging through the remains of my teenage self. But Marcus insists, and having him there makes it bearable. We find my old journals, which are less revealing than the letters, but still full of longing disguised as angst. We find the mixtapes Marcus made me for my birthday junior year with song titles that now seem loaded with meaning I was too young to understand. We find the program from our high school production of Romeo and Juliet, where Marcus played Romeo and I worked on the tech crew, spending every rehearsal watching him from the wings and thinking about tragic love. God, we were dramatic, Marcus says, flipping through one of my journals. Speak for yourself. I was very serious and deep. You were dramatic, he says, but he's smiling. Look at this entry. The weight of unspoken truth is crushing my soul. Crushing your soul, really? I was 17 and in love with my best friend. Everything was crushing my soul. Fair enough, Marcus says, and there's something in his tone that makes me look up. He's watching me with that expression again, the one that makes me feel transparent. For what it's worth, I think I was crushing on you too, I just didn't have the vocabulary for it. Really? Really? All those mixtapes? Half those songs were love songs, David. I spent hours picking out the perfect songs, thinking about what you'd hear when you listened about them. I remember those mixtapes, how I played them until the actual tape wore out, how I memorized every lyric and analyzed every choice, looking for hidden meanings that I convinced myself I was imagining. I still have them, I admit. In Chicago? In Chicago. I've moved 4 times in 10 years, and I've never thrown them away. Marcus sets down the journal he's been reading and looks at me seriously. David, can I ask you something? Sure. When you go back to Chicago, what happens to this? To us? It's the question I've been dreading. The practical reality I've been trying not to think about. I have a life in Chicago. A job, an apartment, friends who depend on me. I can't just abandon everything for a maybe. Can I? I don't know, I say honestly. I haven't figured that part out yet. When do you have to go back? I took 2 weeks off. That gives me until next Monday. 4 more days. The knowledge sits between us like a ticking clock. That's not very long, Marcus says quietly. No, it's not. But maybe it's long enough to figure out what we want this to be. Maybe. That night, Marcus doesn't go home. There's no dramatic declaration, no moment of decision. The power goes out again, a consequence of the old electrical system in the house, and when I suggest he could stay over rather than drive home in the dark, he just nods like it's the most natural thing in the world. We make dinner by candlelight, using up the perishables in Mom's refrigerator before they spoil. It feels domestic in a way that's both familiar and entirely new. We've shared hundreds of meals over the years, but this one is different. There's an awareness between us now, a recognition of possibility that changes everything. After dinner, we sit on the living room floor again, surrounded by candles. The house feels different at night, less like a museum of my past and more like a place where something new might begin. Tell me about your novel, Marcus says. The one you've been working on for 3 years. I'm surprised by the question. How do you know about that? You mentioned it the other day. What's it about? I've never talked about my writing with anyone except my therapist and occasionally Sarah when she's been drinking wine and feeling philosophical. It's too personal, too much of my heart on display. But this is Marcus. If I can't trust him with this, I can't trust him with anything. It's about 2 friends, I say eventually. Childhood friends who lose touch after high school. One of them moves to the city, becomes successful but never quite happy, The other stays in their hometown, builds a life that looks perfect from the outside but feels empty. Years later, they meet again at a funeral and have to figure out how to be in each other's lives again. Marcus is quiet for a moment. Sounds familiar. It's not about us, I say quickly. I mean, it started that way, maybe, but it became something else. A story about second chances and the courage to want what you've always wanted. How does it end? I don't know. That's why I've been stuck for 3 years. Because you don't know how our story ends? The observation is so accurate it takes my breath away. Maybe. Maybe we could figure out the ending together, Marcus suggests. For your novel and for us. The candles flicker in a sudden draft, sending shadows dancing across the walls. Outside, the night is quiet except for the distant sound of traffic and the settling sounds of the old house around us. Marcus, I say, because there's something I need to tell him. Something I should have said years ago. I need you to know that leaving wasn't about not loving you enough. It was about loving you too much, about being so scared of losing you that I walked away first. I know, he says gently. I understand that now. Do you? Because I've spent 20 years feeling like a coward, like I took the easy way out. There was nothing easy about what you did, Marcus says, and his voice is fierce with certainty. You were 18 and scared and trying to protect yourself. There's no shame in that. I hurt you. Yes, but David, staying would have hurt too. Maybe worse if you weren't ready to be honest about what you felt. And now? Now we're 32 and hopefully a little wiser. Now we have the luxury of time and perspective and the knowledge that life is too short to waste on regret. He reaches for my hand again and I let him take it. This is becoming our thing, this simple connection that somehow contains everything we can't say yet. Dix naim. Eisiau siamas